Hey everybody, thank you for tuning back in. In this episode, I actually meet back up with Jackie Stokes from Siemens to learn how to use StartDrive to commission Siemens drives, specifically the G120 and the G220, although I'm sure some of the other drives are very similar. And this actually came from a request from a viewer who asked that we have somebody on to show us that. And because I'm not the expert, I reached out to Jackie and she agreed to come on. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, we're going to cover the G120. The G220, we're going to cover how to change Siemens drives to be Ethernet IP instead of Profinet. They have Ethernet IP built in, which is really cool. And then we're going to cover some free training they have coming up. I will include those links below, as well as the links from Jackie below in the description. You should see that on all platforms. And I do want to reach out to you and ask for a favor. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary of doing this full time, and I was hoping that you guys could help me out to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now, I know a lot of you listen on Apple, a lot listen on Spotify, a lot of you consume the shows over at theautomationblog.com, and I appreciate you all. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could hit 100,000 subscribers over on YouTube by the end of the year? And maybe if we do, we could have a celebration. We could do a live stream, do some Q&A. I'd love to hear what you guys thought I actually started the channel 12 years ago. I was doing it part-time to start. And I'd love to know what your favorite episodes were, or what kind of episodes you like to see in the future. And so if you guys, I know even if you're on another platform, if you do have a YouTube account, if you could swing by, it's at Insights IA. That's a lot shorter than Insights in Automation. So I shortened it up, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago. So it's at Insights IA. Again, if you guys are up to it, I'd love to try to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year to celebrate my 10th year doing this full time. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into how to use StartDrive to set up and commission Siemens VFDs like the G120 and G220. Jackie, welcome back to the show. I'm so happy to have you back on and here to talk about using Siemens VFDs inside a TIA portal. Now, we've talked about your VFDs so many times on the show over the years, but we've never actually put one in TIA portal and tried it out. And I actually had a viewer ask about that. So thank you for agreeing to come back on. And just in case some of the audience members didn't watch the previous episodes where you were on, could you quickly introduce yourself before jumping into our topic for today?
Sure, and thanks for having me back on the show. So my name is Jackie Stokes. I am a marketing programs development manager at Siemens. I work in the motion control business unit. I've been in the business for, oh my goodness, I'm getting old, like 14 years now. But I've been with Siemens for about 3.5 years. So yeah, we've talked about our drives family. I think most recently we talked about the Dynamics G220 drive with Ivan, one of our product managers. But yeah, happy to be back and talking about how to integrate our VFDs into Portal.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And so when we're going to integrate our first, drive into TIA portal, it's kind of like, well, what do we do? And so I wanted to have you on. I could have fumbled through it myself, but I'm like, why not just talk to the experts? So let me turn it back to you and let's go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, sure. So I have just brief slides before we get hands-on. I have a demo unit with me, but just want to cover what we're talking about. So we're talking about our general purpose VFD. It is called Dynamics G120. So Dynamics is the name of our drive family, and G stands for general purpose. So that's kind of the decoder ring for Dynamics G120. It does come in a few different flavors. It comes in a modular version, which we're using today. It comes in a compact version, which is G120C. And it also comes in a distributed or on-machine version, which is G120D, or a similar drive, G115D, and that D is for distributed. So the modular version of this drive comes with a control unit, a power module, as well as an operator interface. So you can kind of see on the pictures to the right what this looks like. So the control unit can be separated from the power module, and then the operator interface can be separated from the components as well. So we're using control unit 240E-2 PN-F, and then we're using a power module 240-2 IP20. The firmware version, I believe, is the latest. It's firmware version 4.7, service pack 14, hotfix 4. And the software, we are using StartDrive. StartDrive is our software for commissioning drives, and it's in TIA Portal. So if you don't have a TIA Portal license to program our PLCs, for instance, StartDrive is free. So you can download StartDrive and it will open essentially in TIA Portal. It's just that if you're using the free version of StartDrive and you don't have a license for TIA Portal, like programming the PLCs, you won't be able to program a PLC in it, but you will be able to commission your drive. So that's the little distinction between StartDrive and TIA Portal. There is also a StartDrive Advanced for advanced features and programming in the drive that you do have to pay for, but most of what you can do and what we'll do today, you can do in the free version of StartDrive, and we'll give you a link to that, how to download StartDrive. And of course, this is just one way to commission a drive. You can also commission it with that industrial operator panel, the IOP-2, which you can see on your screen. We also have a basic version of it. And then we do have a smart access module, which generates a Wi-Fi hotspot. And then you can, step away from the drive, connect on your phone. So 3 different ways to commission that drive. But if you're a Portal user and you're using a Siemens PLC, or maybe you just, want to do this in software, it's really easy to do as well. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we're doing. So the procedure, and then I'll jump into the software and show you what we're doing. So basically, we're going to start off with opening TIA Portal, creating a new project. We'll go online with the drive via accessible devices. This is where we have the opportunity to assign a name and IP address to the drive. And then we will add the drive to the project. So we are going to upload the device as a new station. So once it's in the project, we'll go online with the drive. We're going to use a commissioning wizard, which is going to step us through all the parameters and settings that we need to commission the drive. We'll do a motor ID and tuning and optimization. And then finally, we'll just kind of take a look at the parameters and other features that we can see in Portal. So with that, I am going to switch screens. So now we are in my other computer, which we're going to use to program the drive. So what we're going to do is we're going to open TIA Portal. I already have it open, but you can see the icon here. We are going to use TIA Portal V20. So this is the latest version of Portal. And this is what it looks like when you open Portal. What you want to do is create a new project. So I'm just going to hit create a new project. We'll call this G120. Okay, so if you've never seen TIA Portal before, you have a lot of different options and it can be slightly overwhelming. So I recommend we go to Project View, and that's a good way to just jump into what we need to see for our commissioning. So the first thing we want to do, so this is what Portal looks like. A lot of different windows, a lot of things going on. At the end, I'll talk about some free training we have if you're unfamiliar with Portal and you want to just see what it looks like and understand all the windows and buttons and how to be efficient in the tool. But for today, I'm just going to show you the commissioning. So under online access, I'm just going to expand this on the left-hand side. So this is our project tree. You can see we don't have any devices here. You could add a new device if you wanted. But right now we'll just look at our online access. So these are all the things that we can access online, our communications. I'm going to click up here, which is accessible devices. And up here, this is how we're going to find the drive. So on my computer, I am networked to the drive. So I'm connected to an Ethernet switch on the drive itself. And then my computer has two Ethernet ports, and the port I'm looking for is this gigabit network connection. So this is the one that's tied to the drive. You may have to adjust these settings on your own PC in order to see the drive. But once you have these configured, you can see different options here. You're going to hit Start Search. And as we're waiting, one thing to keep in mind is you will need to configure your network adapter settings so that you're on the same subnet mask as this drive. So just make sure your PC is configured properly, otherwise it won't be able to find the drive. So here we are, we see this G120 drive 1. It has this IP address 192.168.0.1. And you can see the device type here. So earlier I mentioned that control unit, that's CU240E. That is the drive we're connected to. So we're going to hit show here. We're going to highlight it, and then we'll hit show.
Now, just for the audience who is listening, there is an option there to flash the screen. So like I showed you with the PLCs in previous episodes, you can do that with the drive as well. It has a little checkbox there. So if you had 3 or 4 drives side by side, you could make sure you connected to the right one by flashing the screen. So go ahead, I'll turn it back to you, Jackie.
Yeah, that's a good point. So right, I have just one demo unit in my room, so I know what I'm connected to, but that's a very good point. You can flash that little LED. So now you can see we have under online access, under this gigabit port network connection, we have this G120 drive, and this is where we can go to online and diagnostics, and we can make some changes here. So you'll see, we know we're online. So this is another key thing when you're commissioning drives or any devices within or working with devices within TIA Portal, is making sure you're online with the correct device and that you are online. And so this turns to orange up here, and you can see like online access here. So that's an indication that you are online with that device. So we'll go to functions here. And this is where you can assign a name. So if you wanted, we could call this drive_1. And then what you do is just hit assign name. And then like, let's say we want to change the IP address to .3, and we'll assign the IP address. So we change the name, we change this IP address. If you double click on update accessible devices, you can see that our drive_1 name changed, and that the IP address changed. So that's what we're looking for. So we just made those changes to the drive. Now what we can do, and actually once you change the IP address, you might need to cycle power. So I'm going to cycle power to the drive. 1 second. But what we can do in the meantime is we can upload this device as a new station.
Okay.
So what this is going to do is it's going to put the drive into the project. And it's creating this drive_1. And it's giving us a little bit of a warning, but that's okay. We're going to upload from the device. Okay, so now we see drive_1 in our project tree. I'm going to kind of minimize this online access, and we're going to look at the drive up here so we don't get too confused. So here we want to make sure we want to go online with the drive. So we can make sure if you're following along, you want to make sure you select this drive, especially if you have lots of other things in your project tree, because you can go online with a lot of different things. So if you have I remember when I was first learning Portal, yeah, if you don't have the right thing selected and you select go online, you're going online with something else. That's not quite right. So make sure you have it selected and then hit go online up here. It's this little orange connector. And then you'll see this green check mark. So that indicates that we are online and connected and the drive is happy. So now we'll go to the commissioning wizard. So under here, we'll double click commissioning. And we have a few options here. So you see the commissioning wizard, we see control panel, motor optimization, and this backup and restore. So we'll start here with the commissioning wizard. And then basically it's just going to step us through how we want to set up this drive. So we have some options here, the application class. So there's expert, which means that all the options are available in the wizard. There's standard drive control, which again is the most common applications. And then we have dynamic drive control. So these are more advanced applications. So you can kind of read through this. And if you had questions about what I should be using, you can click this little green arrow here at the bottom for online help. So we'll just click standard drive control and we'll hit next. And this is where you have the option. You need to tell it, are you connected to a PLC? If you are, where that ramp function is it in the PLC, or are you going to do it in the drive, or is it going to be a standalone drive, no PLC? So I'll walk through this scenario with standard drive, no PLC, and then I can also show you what it looks like if you go the PLC route and how that configures. But a lot of the things are the same. So you have an IO configuration here. You have some options. I'm going to choose 12. As you can see at the top here, they're predefined interconnections of the inputs and outputs. However, you can change them later. So choose the one that best fits your application. But again, keep in mind, you can change it later if you change your mind or need to change something. We'll click next. We are using this motor. So I'm just going to keep this here, this IEC, and then 220 volt. We do not have a braking resistor, and we do not have a filter. Again, this is where you have the option to select a filter if you are using one, and then it'll give you a few more. I'll just show you an example. So if we had a sine wave filter third party, you would have to input these values. But for this application, we'll choose no filter. And then we're going to enter the motor data. So this is where you're going to need to read your motor nameplate data. And then we'll input the motor nameplate data here. So right now we have 0.97, 0.18, and kilowatts, and then 350 RPM. And then we'll hit next. And then we'll hit next. This is where don't touch the current limit. I'm not going to touch the minimum speed or maximum speed. You have the option here to change your ramp up time or ramp down time if you want. So just for example, we'll change these values here and we'll click next. You have an option to change the application. So constant load, speed dependent load, and then the motor identification. So if you want inhibited, identifying motor at standstill, or motor data identification. So I'll click this option 2 here, and then it says that the motor data identification will be performed at the next time that the drive is enabled. And then we'll hit next. And then here, we'll save the RAM to ROM, so it'll be saved in the drive. And then we'll hit, and you can see the summary up here. So you have the opportunity, like if you're reading through this and maybe you mistyped your motor current, you can go back and change that setting right now if you wanted. So I would recommend that you read through this, make sure it's all correct, and then hit finish. So now we are saving to the EEPROM. I'm going, let's see so it says maintenance required in lower components. So we're going to look at diagnostics here. So you can see, sometimes you want to, if this is unhappy, you kind of want to see what's going on. So we'll go to this online and diagnostics here. Diagnostics, general. Okay, so you can see, we have our name of our drive and the part number, but let's look at active faults and alarms. Okay, and what it doesn't like, the motor data identification activated. So it's looking for that motor data, and that's why it's giving us this little maintenance required. So what we can do is we'll go back into commissioning. We'll go into motor optimization here. And so once you click on it, it's going to give you a warning. This motor identification is performed once the drive is enabled. So we'll click OK. And then what we can do, so first we'll hit activate here. We'll click accept. And then we'll switch on. And then our motor ID is done. And you can see here, it has switched from that kind of wrench icon to this green checkbox icon, which means that we did a good job.
So it went through and identified the motor. It applied power to the motor, and I couldn't see what was happening with the motor. Did it turn the motor at all, or did it just supply power to it? Or
Yes, so it just supplied power to it. So, and you can see here the following parameters are determined or changed when the motor with the motor data identification. So this is what it's looking at. And we did a stationary measurement, so
see.
it
Okay.
did not rotate during that measurement.
Okay.
And then we can deactivate control. Yes. Okay. And then we can look at the control panel. So this is kind of cool. This allows you to test the drive in TIA portal. We didn't write any PLC programming. We haven't, since I have this demo unit, it's wired up for these particular little switches that I have on it. But regardless and independent of that, we can actually, kind of jog and turn on the drive and just test it out. So I'm going to hit activate master control. And again, it's going to give us a warning because the drive can move. So just be aware of what you're doing. It wants to make sure you're okay with this. So I'm going to hit accept. We can give it a speed set point. So we'll give it 200 RPM. And then we can give it a forward command. We can tell it to go backwards. We can increase the speed. And, you can jog forward to this momentary push button here. And yeah, so it's a nice way to kind of test it out right here. And then we can deactivate the control. And then once you've done this, you can go to backup and restore. So this will save RAM to ROM. We can save it here. They'll save RAM to ROM. One thing that I should have done when I was first starting out, and that is restore to factory settings. So I won't do this now, but you can, if you get in a situation where you do need to restore to factory settings or you got a drive from somewhere else and you need to restore it, you can do that within TIA portal. So we could do that now and then redo the commissioning. So occasionally, at least in my experience with the demo units, sometimes they come in and you don't know what someone has done with them.
Sure.
So you want to start with this. But since I've been playing around with this demo for the past few days, I kind of know what's in it.
Yeah, that would be important too. If you're repurposing it from one application to another, you definitely want to wipe out everything and restore it to the factory defaults before you use it on a new application.
Yes. And that's something you can do in that online access area. So once so here, when you first saw that drive,
Hmm.
before you upload it as a new station, you have that ability. Again, it's in that commissioning menu. It's mirrored
Okay.
up here too.
Yeah.
But you can go there and do that backup and restore. So that's the best practice. Again, if you're um repurposing a drive, but if it's out of the box, you know, it's already at factory default. So once your drive is in a good state, you've done your commissioning, you've saved RAM to ROM, what you want to do is you want to make sure your drive is selected, which it should be, but we'll just go offline here. And then what you want to do, just to be sure, so your project should match what was in the drive, but a good best practice here is to upload from the device. So that means your project will match whatever is in the drive right now. Um, so this is just warning us this Telegram configuration, but we'll hit upload from device. And then we will save our project. So that is how you make sure your project now matches the drive. And then if you wanted, you could, have another drive that you're connecting to, and you could then download to that device. But we know the project matches. So that was a good overview of commissioning, basic commissioning for Dynamics G120. Our newer drives look a little different. The commissioning wizard is different. So we're coming out with our next generation of Dynamics drives. Two drives to look out for. One is our motion drive. So it's a servo motion. It is the Dynamics S210. And then we have a new drive, the Dynamics G220, who Ivan, our product manager for that product, was on the show about a year ago and talked in depth about it. But the whole product family sits a little bit higher than the G120 in terms of capabilities and performance. So it's not a successor to the G120. It's a complement to the product portfolio. But I'll just give you an overview of what that looks like. We can, since I don't have this demo myself right now, I'm going to add a new device. So again, another idea, if let's say you wanted to get your project all ready so that once your drive arrives, you can just simply download to it. Another way to do this is to add a new device here in your project tree instead of scanning for it, on the network, assuming you're connected to a physical device. We can just add it here, do all the commissioning, set up all the parameters, and then once you get the physical drive, you can download to that drive. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, we have controllers, HMI, PC systems, drives. So it's going to let you add whatever you want to your project. I have it selected on drives, and we'll name this G220. And then here, we're just going to filter down. So you see all of our G drives here.
Mhm.
The G220 is at the bottom. We'll do G220 Profinet, also means Ethernet IP. And make sure the version, article number, and we'll hit OK. So if you listen to Ivan's overview of the G220, one of the new features is its security. And when we say security here in this context, we're talking about user security. So user management and access control, also known as UMAC or abbreviated UMAC. So what you have the opportunity to do here is to configure your security settings. If you want, you can also continue with low security settings. But this is what this looks like. I'll just kind of walk through what it looks like. So start a new configuration, what it is. So if you're unfamiliar with management and access control, this is what it tells you you can do with this tool. So you can enable UMAC for the project and prompt users to log in order to work with the project. You can enable UMAC for the drive and prompt users to log in order to work with the drive via the web server and StartDrive. So one of the new commissioning options that you have with our next generation of drives is a web server. And again, I don't have the drive with me now, so I won't show you the web server. We'll just show you TIA portal. But that's what it's referring to when it says this web server. So just be aware, if you check these boxes, and in these later steps we'll go through, you will have to know your username and password, or you will not be able to access this drive. So just remember to save your passwords if you do. Yes, if you do go down this route. Now, the scenario of I lost my password, I lost my username, I can't access this drive. How do I get around that? Well, the only way to get around that is you're going to have to get an SD card and insert that into the drive, and it will have just reset.txt on it. So a reset text file.
Okay.
Yes. So there is a way. You're not totally, in trouble there, but you will have to reset the whole drive. So there's no secret way of getting around it. So if you do enable that, that is how you would restore your drive or get access to it again. And then you can see here. So data encryption, if you wanted, you could do this. Activate user controls incomplete. Okay. So it said it was incomplete because we did not specify a password. So we have to specify a password here. And I think it has some requirements for your password. So you just want to make sure you remember this one. We'll hit OK. And then next. It doesn't like this. I have to click, I have read the information above. Yes, okay. Click next. Username. So you could allow a guest to enable access to the drive. It's up to you. Uses the anonymous user. So we'll hit yes. Allow data exchange via field bus. So is the anonymous user is used for field bus communication. So again, just want to make sure you understand these settings. The SDI standard panel access. So we'll allow the drive to be changed via the standard panel without a username and password. Web server access. So again, going through all the different ways to access this drive and making sure you are okay with how you're accessing it. Data encryption, next, and then we will hit finish. So it's pretty in-depth. Again, if you don't want to, you can skip the security settings. You can also go back and reconfigure them too. So if you're just working on this project, you can configure it later. So here, similar to that drive one, which is the G120, we have all of our options here. We're going to go to device configuration, so we'll look at our device configuration. You can see here, we have our Dynamics G220. We have a motor here, which we actually don't have a motor. So let's see here. Properties. Yes, so we just added the drive. We didn't add a motor, so we can add the motor here. This is where we're going to enter our motor data for whatever motor we have. So I'm just going to make up some values. This is what's on my current demo unit, so 0.97. Obviously, you want to look at your motor nameplate and make sure it matches. And then we'll go to our guided quick setup. So, little different look and feel compared to what we did with the G120. It's giving us a warning here, so the device is not specified. Specify the device first. We can click on this here. So it wants a little bit more information on what drive we're using.
Yeah, the power, right?
Yes. So again, since we cheated, well, I wouldn't say cheated, but with the G120, when you have it, when you're online with it, you can upload as a new station. So it's detecting what you have. But since we don't have that, we're making this up in the project. It needs to know the information. So we're just going to pick this one here to satisfy the requirement. And now it's happy again. So we'll go back to quick guided startup. Yes, and our warning went away. We'll just move this down. All right, so connection to the PLC, define connection. Actually, I'm gonna minimize this window here. Yes, do you want to connect it? Will connect to a PLC via Telegram. In this case, we'll say yes. It won't be standalone, it'll be connected to a PLC. And then do we want the ramp function in the drive or do we want it in the PLC? We'll say we want it with the drive. And then, if you're using safety integrated functions via ProfiSafe, you can check that box. So we have made our selections here. Actually, I want to see green check boxes at the top. Okay, so we made our selection and you can see the green box. So we have completed this step. So select the application. We're going to select speed control. We'll go next. The operating mode. So similar to that G120, it's asking us standard drive control, dynamic, and you can see how this changes or selecting other closed loop control modes. So we'll go back with standard drive control and click next. Here are the limits. So again, that maximum and minimum speed, this ramp up time, we'll change it to 5 seconds. Our limits has turned green. So again, we have an option here, this field bus with data switchover. You can delete all these connections if you want, but this is just how your digital inputs are. Digital inputs, digital outputs, analog inputs, and analog outputs are connected. So you have the option if you want to get rid of them, or if you want to keep them and modify them. So we'll just keep them and we'll hit next.
Very graphical mapping there of each digital and each I/O point to the actual value in the drive, where the previous drive, we had a bunch of items to choose from. We chose 12, which was the standard, your standard inputs and outputs and analog values. But here it's very graphical. I like this. This looks really cool. And it almost looks like I can go and where it says no connection, DI4, right? No connection. It looks like you could choose look at that list. A whole list of parameters that you could choose to put in that spot.
Yes, exactly. You can get to this setting in the G120. It's just not part of the commissioning.
Okay.
So, but that's a good point. So in here, in the, in this newest generation of drives, the commissioning, you have the option to set this up here. But yeah, you're right. You can do it in the G120, but it doesn't prompt you right from the get-go.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to application setting because I just want to make sure you can show more data. Let's see. Okay, no, that looks good. Next. telegrams. Here we go. So since we're talking to a PLC, it wants to know which telegram we're going to use. So the telegram is basically that exchange of data between PLC and drive. It comes from like the Profi drive profile. So it's kind of a Profinet thing term, I guess I should say. So you want to know what I'm trying to say is you want to know what each of these telegrams mean in terms of status and control words and the information being exchanged between PLC and drive. So we usually use, well, I shouldn't say usually, but we use like Siemens Telegram 352 for basic like speed control, but you can choose any of these telegrams. And I would encourage you, if you're not familiar with telegrams, to look at the table, see what kind of data is being exchanged between the drive and PLC, so that you're selecting the correct one. And you can change this later if you want. So you know, so if you make the wrong selection here, you can go back and change it.
Now it looks like it wants us to update the I/O configuration now because we changed the telegram, which would make sense.
Ah, yes. And I'll go back to that for a second. So if you go to this PZD interconnections and so this
Mhm.
is process data, that's what the PZD kind of stands for. If we click on that, you can see here what the telegram configuration looks like. So you can see the alarm code, the fault code, current, torque, speed, and the control. And then that's in the receive direction. So that's just what it looks like here.
Okay.
And you're right. So if we go IO configuration, yes. So you're right. Since we are using Telegram 352, we are not having these IO connections connected to parameters within the drive. Hit next. We'll be prompted for this rotate and optimize. So again, we have this option, identify motor data, optimize piece controller, identified motor data at standstill. So we'll just keep that and hit next. And at the end here is our summary. So these are all the changes we made. Similar to the G120, you can go through, make sure you set everything correctly, and then you would perform a download, except we don't have our drive yet. So you can't quite do that right now. But what you can do is you can save this. So you can save your project. And then once you get your drive, you can go online with it and download to that drive.
Excellent. I mean, it's interesting to see the difference between the original one we looked at, the G120, and then this model, the G220, and to see how the wizard changed over time. And it's just very interesting. This one seems to be more like it's offering you more details up front. And but it's good to know both because you may have a 120 or a 220 or some other drive. So understanding the different interfaces is very helpful.
Yes. So now what I want to show, so right now we have this drive configured to run with a PLC. We have it configured for Telegram 352. And then what we can also do, so like say we're in a scenario, right now it's configured, all the drives are configured for Profinet out of the box, this G120 and this G220. But let's say we have a scenario where we need to configure it for Ethernet IP. So maybe we're using a non-Siemens controller. How would you do that? So it's a little different in the G220 compared to the G120. So I just want to make our viewers aware of these differences. So what we want to do in the G220 is we want to go to this drive here. We're going to hit properties. So we're going to pull up this window so that we can see it. We'll close out that commissioning window. So now we're in the properties of this. And what we want to do is go to protection and security here.
Mhm.
And ports and protocols. And this is the field bus and related protocol configuration. So this is where we can switch to Ethernet IP or Modbus TCP. We're going to switch to Ethernet IP. And then we'll hit OK. And that's all we had to do. So again, here, you could right click. I think you can, yeah, right click and hit properties here. And then that is how you find it.
Nice. That was easy.
Yes. Now, what's different is in the G120. So we'll go up here. It's actually just a parameter in the G120.
Oh.
So this is a little different. So what I do usually is I go to parameter view, and then I go to display extended parameters. So this shows all the parameters. And I'm going to hit Control F. So I'm going to find it. And it's parameter 2030 for field bus. That's going to find it. And you can see here, since we made this a standalone drive, it has no protocol. And this is where you can change it from Profinet or Ethernet IP.
Nice.
So the big difference here is like the G120, the S120, these all have a parameter 2030, and you just change one parameter and it switches between Ethernet and Profinet. In the newer drives, you have to go into the device properties, ports and protocols, and make that change if you want to make it.
That's good to know. It's I don't think I would have guessed that.
It was something we learned when we got our new demos. So, is there anything else?
I think that's enough to get anybody started. I mean, it's always
Okay.
good if you have to sit down with a new VFD. It's always good to have somebody kind of walk through it first, and then that gives you the confidence to get in there. You know you could get something working. And I don't think you'll ever get through one of these commissionings without having to crack the book. You'll definitely want to read any literature that comes with the VFD. There's safety stuff in there you got to know about. Of course, you got to follow NEC and all those other applicable codes, but and all safety codes as well. But I think just having somebody. It's one thing to read a book. It's another thing to see actually somebody walk through it. And I know I feel a lot more confident that I now going and trying something out than I would have before you came on and showed us how to do this. So I really appreciate you, Jackie, the time. And I didn't know, was there anything else you wanted to show?
Yes, I do want to show some resources we have to get you guys started and help you on your journey to commissioning Dynamics drives and TIA portal. So if you are new to TIA portal, Dynamics drives, just integrating maybe a PLC into TIA portal, integrating a drive into TIA portal, we have a really cool tool. So, or I should say a really cool class. So it's TIA University. So they're free expert-led workshops and self-study courses. So there are some basic video series. Again, most of this is for, PLC, TIA portal. However, they do incorporate how to integrate a Dynamics drive into this. So if you've never opened up TIA portal, or if it's been a while, I recommend you do this TIA test drive class. So it happens every month. It's a full day. It is virtual instructor led, so you'll be able to remote into a TIA portal project and follow along with the instructor. So you will get to be hands-on, but you can do it from your office, from home, from wherever. Again, it's a day-long class. You can download the syllabus here and take a look. So that's the TIA test drive. Gives you a really nice overview of TIA portal and all the things you can do with it. We also have another class called Merge Logics with TIA portal. So if you're a Rockwell user, familiar with Studio 5000, Logix Designer, and you have a TIA portal project or a Siemens project coming up, and you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to do that. This gives you context of TIA, or this presents TIA portal in the context of what you're used to in Logix. So if you're familiar with Logix, the instructor kind of translates that into TIA portal for you. So if you're used to one thing, this is what it looks like in TIA portal. So again, if you're, familiar with Studio 5000, this will give you a really nice overview. Similar to that TIA test drive class, it's offered every month. It's a day-long class. It's hands-on, but virtual. So again, we use a hypervisor. You'll be able to remote into a virtual machine and get hands-on with the software. So I encourage you guys to join one of those classes or both. And then I also I'll give you these links, or rather Sean will in the video. So this just kind of covers all things Synamics drives. I'll link to our website, overview of our VFDs and our high performance and servo drives, distributed DC drives, digital drivetrain, and then our tools and resources. So we have our Siemens product configurator, sizer, TIA selection tool, Synamics selector mobile app, drive connections or drive applications. Here I've added this Ethernet IP connectivity. So if you are using Synamics drives on Ethernet IP, this will give you all the resources you need to set that up, one, in the drive, and then two, we have add-on instructions, EDS files, things like that to make your life easier. And then, of course, TA Portal Synamics StartDrive. This is what this looks like. So if you do not have StartDrive yet, you can download the latest version here. And again, that StartDrive is within TIA Portal and it's free. So feel free to download it. And with that, Sean, it's been so great to show you all about TIA Portal and commissioning Synamics drives in it. So feel free to reach out to me again.
Jackie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this for us. I know, an audience member, asked to us to kind of cover that, and I'm like, and I'm like, I'll get Jackie back on the show. So thank you for coming on and showing us StartDrive and how, even though it's integrated in the TI portal, that component allows us to commission our VFDs, upload from them, download to them, change parameters, identify the motor, and just everything you walked us through was very helpful. And I'm hoping the audience, guys, let me know in the comments, did you think that was helpful? And do you have any follow-up questions? I think we covered so much territory. I don't have any questions right now, but I would be interested in know what the audience thinks. And again, Jackie, thank you so much for your time and for showing us how to use StartDrive.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I want to thank Jackie for coming on and teaching us how to use StartDrive. I've never used it before, so I really appreciate her coming on. And if there's other things you guys want to see, let me know. I have no problem reaching out to the vendors. Sometimes, like great vendors like Siemens and Rockwell and Schneider and other great vendors, they come on and they'll offer it. Sometimes I get crickets, but that's okay. You don't know until you try. So if there's anything else you'd like to see, let me know. And if you do have a YouTube account, maybe you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or Spotify or at theautomationblog.com, please consider giving me a sub over on YouTube. I really would like to try to hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. It's kind of a stretch goal, but this is my 10th year doing this full time, 12th year since I've created the blog and the YouTube site. And I'd really like to see if we couldn't hit that. I don't ask a lot. I'm not one of those people who like to ask for subs and likes and whatnot. I know you have to do it, but in any case, if you guys don't mind, I'd love to try to hit that number. So if you can help, that would be awesome. In any case, with all that said, I want to wish you good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.